So, this is trolling as Speak Shack, or the art of trolling, with a description of all the utensils, instruments, tackling, and materials requisite thereto, with rules and directions how to use them. So, this is a very long title thing. Okay, so yeah, as per usual, feel free to ask questions along the way. I am not the best troll. At least I don't think I am. There's other people who know trolling better than me. It's my first time reading this. And this is in the, what would we call it? The Journal of Social Philosophy is a new article. So, yeah, hopefully this at least have relevance to Twitch. Maybe we'll learn something. Introduction. The acceptance of trolling as a feature of internet communications and the clustering together of behavior that range from playfulness to abusive bullying under the term trolling has interesting moral implications, for it seems that sometimes such behavior is dismissed as mere trolling, and consequently the trolls who perform these acts are granted a partial exemption from responsibility for the content or consequences of their speech. Alright, let's stop there immediately. What's like mere trolling isn't bad, but like there's a bad trolling, there's always like going over the limit. And so it's like, yeah, you can have a little bit of fun at other people's expense, but like, you know, sometimes it's a little too much. And where to draw that line, of course, it depends on the situation. And what was funny was I was on someone else's stream. They were giving an interview or something, or like, oh no, I was in a streamer I knew was in someone else's stream. And I was in that other person's stream, so I was unknown to them. But like they had some of their mods were in there from the person I did know, so their mods knew who I was. And so I'm like cracking jokes. And you could see the mods in the like that stream's mods, the ones who don't know me, they were getting nervous. The other ones were like, no, don't worry about that guy. He's okay. Like he's not like out to screw people, like screw with the discussion. So I do understand there's a difference in like it has to be it can be a fine line, even though like I said I'm not a very good troll, but like it what's the responsibility of like what, making a joke? What's so bad? We'll see. A result of this is that some acts which might ordinarily be considered bullying, abuse, or threats when uttered outside of the internet can be dismissed as mere trolling when carried out on the internet. You have a theory about that? Do tell, Vipers. One popular response to this is to categorize acts of trolling based on perceived intentions, or to argue that for more virulent acts particularly, trolling is not an appropriately labeled term, label to be applied. Yeah, so there could be like, you know, just joking around and then like actual like proper trolling. But again, like I said, this is going to be dependent on circumstance. Although I agree that, for example, there should be no special exemption granted for racist speech on the basis that it is used in an act of trolling, I argue here that we also should not ignore the structural similarities of the range of speech acts often described as trolling. Application of tools from the philosophy of language and consideration of an act of trolling as a complex speech act can make clear some of these similarities. Once these similarities are made clear, we can start to understand a little more about what trolling is. I suggest that central to acts of trolling is a notion of seriousness and its interplay between the troll, their target, and any onlookers to the act of trolling. How and when did troll become a verb? I mean, I assume to troll has always been a verb in terms of to troll like the bottom of a lake or something, is to like pick up all the crud on the bottom of a lake. And so it's always been a verb. Now, to troll, as in like to be like a goblin underneath a bridge that like attack people. But yeah, I mean we do need definitions, but this is like the introductory paragraph. I expect I'll get there. But I mean, I'm just saying that trolling, depending on what you think the history is, I'm sure it's got a long history, because to troll is to like, you know, stir up muck at the bottom of a river, and that is kind of what trolls do, is they stir muck up. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what this author says. By viewing trolling in this way, we can understand better the rhetorical nature of an act of trolling and why we can often end up facing what I call the trolling dilemma. That is, in many acts of trolling, the directions of reply are either to respond seriously to an utterance and so be trolled, or to acknowledge it as an unserious act of trolling and so to dismiss it as mere trolling. our buddy Aris is one of the best, I think, at handling trolls. Usually he goes the serious route. Like, what he does is he says, oh, let's seriously respond to the troll in a very, very philosophical way. And usually the troll doesn't know what to do because Aris is coming back with a level of sophistication that they are unprepared for. And that's one way to handle a troll, is to, come right back at them with something even more complicated than what they were saying. Then you dismiss them, then they'll just try harder. But if you're just going to, like, a boring troll is just a waste, and those people get banned. So yeah, actually I have a command here, which I never get to use because trolls don't normally come here, but it's low effort. Low effort comments are subject to removal and ban. This includes, hey Infernal, what's up? But is not limited to profane or vulgar statements for their own sake and tedious trolling. And that's the thing. It's the tedious trolling that is really just not fun. If you're going to be a troll, you be a troll like Viper's Gratitude, and you make it fucking entertaining. Okay, yeah, and I'm actually reading a paper on trolling as speech act, so there's a philosophy of language paper on the speech act of trolling. So hopefully, maybe someone here is trolling is not a dredging? I swear it was. You're still looking though? Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, then I'm confused about my history. I mean, trawling. It might be TRAWL. So, yeah, trawling. yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. And so, I mean, I think the words might be like, so similar that that's how it just ended up. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Anne. Alright, Viper says, we increasingly conduct our social lives on private platforms, and so people have internalized the corporate rules in the name of market inclusivity, rendering them unimpeachable, even though they're merely channeling the toxic energy of the mob through corporate ideals. It could be the road to hell paved with good intentions. Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying there. I don't know if they're good intentions, they're corporate intentions. And people react to that as yeah, could very well be. But like, yeah, I see, like, people have to, they're, no matter what sort of restraints you put on people, they're gonna fight back. And so the corporate speak we have online is causing people, like the corporate blinders we have on, causes this sort of trolling where you always act within the malicious compliance of what the range of whatever it is. So no matter what sort of a range you have, yeah, collective intentions are a slippery concept. But like, whatever range of available freedom you have, you're going to push those bounds, and that's why you get malicious compliance on all these platforms. Like, there's always I'm saying something I'm allowed to, but it's going to be against what the corporate overlords that sort of content that makes this corporately permissible, I guess you could say. So yeah, that's an interesting case though, that since we are talking through more mediated speech, we're being forced to be more creative, and it's being creative in the way that is anti-corporate jargon. So that is a unique thing. So that's interesting, Vipers. Thank you. I'll think about that a bit more. It's definitely not the paved with good intentions though. It's paved with making money on the internet by the corporate intentions. There's nothing good about that. Okay. So when we consider that the act is essentially divisive and difficult to respond to effectively, we can start to understand why regimes and movements which thrive on division have successfully embraced trolling as a propaganda tool. Oh wait, I missed a sentence. Yeah. In an act of trolling, the audience targeted by the troll is a mere prop to be manipulated for the entertainment of the troll and their onlookers. This inbuilt division between different audiences makes trolling a particularly powerful political device, and the trolling dilemma makes responding to trolling difficult. So when we consider the act itself, it is essentially divisive and difficult to respond to effectively. So we can start to understand why regimes and movements which thrive on division and have successfully embraced trolling as a propaganda tool. Yeah, because you're not laughing with someone, you're laughing at them, and then you have all the people that want to laugh at the people. So okay. Trolling preliminaries. Alright, and so here's in cinesemiotics is where we're going to get our definitions. Some terminological notes to begin. Trolling is carried out by trolls on targets. A particular target need not necessarily be predetermined by the troll, but is simply anyone who responds in a way amenable to the act of trolling. The target is an audience that trolling is performed to, but an act of trolling has an audience, which includes a troll it is performed for. I call this audience onlookers. Okay, so yeah, so all the viewers are onlookers, but there's someone that it's performed to, and those are the people who like the trolling. Viper says, it's not just that, it's that the less imaginative actively enforce the rules. A puritanical censorship dismissing others and their opinions if they don't express themselves using sanctioned speech. Yeah, that's a good point too, that you're going to have the shills. You're just going to have the shills that say, oh, you're going against the rules, that's very bad, or you're like something like that. And so people do not realize that they're basically playing into the corporate game by enforcing arbitrary rules that are bad at certain, may not always be bad, but bad at certain times. So yeah, so I mean, what's it called, like the DMCA and stuff, like always the takedowns. So you have people who play videos in like flipped, and that avoids the the automated scanning devices or whatever else you do. You change a little bit of it, so you're always doing this sort of like this, trying to get away from the censorship. What's it called, when the cops around here, I don't know if they do it by you, but around here the cops will play copyrighted music when they're like filming arrests nowadays, because you can't upload any of those videos because you'll have copyrighted music in it and it will get DMCA'd. So the cops will play literally like Disney music while they're like being bad, and that way you can't have any of the videos go viral because they'll all get DMCA'd pulled down. And so this is like the sort of the stupid enforcement of the rules. So the puritanical censorship gets abused. Okay, anywho, trolling. Trolling is a complex linguistic behavior, and the usage of trolling is still in flux. As such, defining it both pithily and satisfactorily is difficult. This is an occasion, though, when etymology is perhaps helpful. Trolling originally referred to a method of fishing whereby bait is placed on a hook, and the hook is dangled from a boat, and the angler gently moves the boat downstream, waiting for a fish to bite. Okay, this is where I thought it came from. This sort of like scraping the bottom, but I didn't realize it was a fishing method. I thought it was like cleaning like the bottom here. John Gilmore, co-founder of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, see I'm showing off that I know what EFF is, once said, "The net interprets censorship as damage and roots around it." I wonder if that's still true. Yeah, it is still true, but it may not be as true as it once was, or the thing that is called the net has, calcified. So you can look at like Web3 things that are, people are doing stuff on the blockchain. That is a way around censorship, and people are doing that. But it's like, but we're in like Web 3.0. It's not like what used to be called the net. Like this is something slightly different. But I still think that people are attempting to use the technology to get around it, but we're definitely out of the Wild West. Well, it never was the Wild West. We're definitely beyond the idealistic phase that somehow the internet is going to be a great tool for like the democratization of ideas. That's not true. It's getting abused like every other major technology. At first it was when you had all the people who were idealistic or just technology enthusiasts, but then once you had people that wanted to use it for power, then they controlled the speech and directed it as they wanted. So, but it's still, some things are still rooting around it. But okay. With a few slight changes, we can see how internet trolling is similar. The bait is generally a provocative comment, the hook is the social media it is written on, and the troll leaves it dangling, waiting for a bite. Yeah. Trolling is not an entirely new type of behavior. Expressions such as baiting, codding, winding up, teasing, and goading probably capture similar acts. The first two or three are even plausibly fishing-derived terms, too. Just like trolling, those terms can also sometimes refer to what appears to be amusing, innocuous, or playful behavior, but also cause cases of abuse and harassment. As I argue later on, trolling bears relation to certain types of humor, and it is these terms we might best characterize it. Yeah, in these terms, we might best characterize it. What we might think makes trolling worthy of close attention, however, is the scale of its proliferation and the success as a communicative tool. It is a conspicuous feature of internet discourse, an implement of corporate marketing, and most importantly, has become a tool used for disseminating political ideas. This author uses very big words. Okay. Examples. The following 3 examples have all been described as trolling. They have been chosen for their differences and to reflect some of the range of acts that have been termed trolling. I present them here only with some relevant contextual information, and analysis follows in subsequent sections. Ken M. Kenneth McCarthy posts intentionally confused messages on the internet under the username Ken M. Oh, Ken M is hilarious. He's really good. He doesn't use very big words. He has a British education. That may be the case, but I mean, he uses very big words very close to each other, which trips me up. I need small, dumb words for my bad American education. Ken M is generally regarded as a troll. Yeah, he's good though. McCarthy has spoken publicly about his trolling and describes it as playing a well-meaning moron on the internet. He claims that he does it primarily as a reaction to the harshness of internet discourse. For example, T1 was posted under a 2015 article entitled Clinton-Bush Fundraising Steady Among GOP Trump Slump. T1. Ben Franklin said politicians are like Pampers. They both stink and they act like babies. The comment received the following response from user Carl. Ken, hate to tell you, Pampers have only been around 50 years. True moron. 2-2. This is Donald Trump. On July 14, 2019, then President Donald Trump posted the following comment on social media platform Twitter. So interesting to see progressive Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? This references 4 non-white U.S. congresswomen, AOC, Rashid Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, and Ilhan Omar. There are numerous ways in which one might view T2 as racist for current purposes, though most striking is that it provides a rendition of the send them back to their own countries. Yeah, just so you know, like, AOC is from about 8 miles in that direction from me. Like, she's not that far from where I am right now. Yeah, 12 miles? Yeah, we're talking less than 15 miles from here. It's like right over there. It's not that far. Actually, no, not that way. But yeah. Although some of the media responses to Trump's comments condemned as racist, interesting, some of these same critics noted he was also trolling. In one report, The Guardian said the presidential trolling may have been meant as a distraction from immigration raids that were due in major cities on Sunday. An LA Times editorial on the day of the tweets also said, is just trolling as usual. He's just trying to get a rise out of us. He is just baiting us. Yeah, that's what he is. He was a master baiter. The RIP troll. The following example is a case of so-called RIP trolling and was posted under a YouTube video about the 2011 Christchurch earthquake. I and the rest of the world are pleased you are a piece of shit family, blank, ... are dead, squashed, filthy shit rotting in the ground. Especially those 2 filthy babies that were squashed. Rest in piss, you fucking rodent pieces of shit. RIP trolls target articles, videos, or memorial pages relating to tragedies and deaths. Generally, it is supposed that the RIP trolls post such comments for the amusement of other RIP trolls. The motivations for RIP trolling, RIP trolling, and the humor it evokes will be touched upon in section 4.3. Trolling, sincerity, and seriousness. I mean, do you guys have anything to say about this? I don't know if I care about these. These are, I mean, I like Ken M. Because like he says, a well-meaning moron. So that means his stuff is dumb. Trump was strategic in his stuff, as I think people say. I mean, he's racist, but he's not stupid. Like, he's not like completely stupid. He did like do this for a purpose, and I think the newspapers realized he was stirring up trouble, so he could act badly over here while stirring up trouble over there. That was his pattern. And the RIP trolling is, this is the tedious trolling. I think that's right. They're just trying to, make fun by getting everyone angry. Viper says, I bet there's a paper in paralleling the Prohibition era with online censorship and the speakeasies of 4chan, Trump's Truth Social, etc., and the siloization of society, wet versus dry. Yeah. I don't know where it was, but someone it was probably in Shane's stream, where someone asked about the history of yeah, Aris asked in Shane's stream about the history of intellectualism, and these things have come up before, and so like Prohibition era probably had similar things. And what was the joke? I saw it somewhere. Someone asked someone I saw it online. It must have been on like Reddit or something. There was a Prohibition cop going around, and he was saying how long it would take him to find alcohol in what should have been a dry town. And so, some places took him a half hour, one place took like an hour and a half. He went to New Orleans, and it said it took him 30 seconds. And he said, how does it get to be 30 seconds? He got in a taxi. He asked the taxi, where can I get a drink? And the guy handed him a beer. So it's like, what happens when you put these arbitrary restrictions on people? Yeah, it shows up again on certain areas. So, okay. Trolling sincerity and seriousness. Academic work. So yeah, there might be something in this. Like I wonder if the reading list on this paper is going to be interesting. They may have gathered up a lot of the internet trolling research. Okay. There is some call in academic discussions for the need to distinguish between different types of trolling, for example, classifying some acts as kudos trolling and others as flame trolling. So whereas the kudos troll provokes for the entertainment of others, the flame troll is said to be simply carrying out the abuse that is not intended to be humorous. Without knowing the context from which the examples above come from, we might naively think that T1 is a case of kudos trolling and T3 a case of flame trolling, for example. It is plausible that T3 could, on the face of it, appear to be a case of simple abuse, but as previously mentioned in section 223... You're gonna cite this? Yeah, do it. When you're writing your autobiography, Vipers. As well, alright, this will be discussed later. Even T3 has a component of entertaining an audience. There are clear merits to drawing distinctions between particular acts of trolling in the sense that some acts of trolling are certainly more offensive or damaging than others. However, there is a fundamental problem with trying to draw such a distinction. We might think that any troll is at least in some way entertaining themselves, and beyond a warped version of utilitarianism, I do not see any good moral distinction between abusing someone by saying P to entertain only oneself on the one hand, and saying P to entertain oneself and some others on the other. As such, I think it is very plausible to say that with every act of trolling, there is at least one person the troll intends to entertain, themselves. When analyzing trolling, the speech act, therefore, I would not distinguish between acts of trolling in such a way. I mean, there's also, of course, there's the political trolls who are getting paid to troll. There's the self-hating trolls who really think they're doing something useful and there's no real benefit to anybody. But yeah, so I will say there's going to be benefit, but like, I don't know if they're only doing this for entertainment. Trolling can be misdirected anger, I would think, too. You can just see people being grumpy and they don't know what to do with themselves. If any of you do not know Excessive Profanity, Excessive Profanity is a streamer, and he's he's been playing Elden Ring, and people come in, he's playing blind, which means you don't want any backseating, no help, and people come into his stream, and, they say, oh, why don't you do this? Do you not know how to do that? And they get told, don't do stuff like that, and people can't stop themselves, or they say something stupid. And what he does is he has a voting system where chat gets to vote, or all the subscribers get to vote, and then they have a ritualistic beheading on stream, and the person gets banned. And it's like a whole banning thing. And so it's like, who are they entertaining? Some people are doing it because they want attention. That's what they're doing. Are they entertaining themselves? Maybe, maybe not. But what they want a lot of times is attention, and that is really, I think, what's critical here. They're trying to direct your attention in a certain way. Some ways are entertaining to themselves. Some ways are directing attention at some political or other purpose. And I think that's what it is. So, does he have a underscore? I don't even remember. See if that works. Yes, this is excessive profanity. And, I mean, he's like one of these like partnered streamers, like big time. He's been around forever. Did you send me a new suggestion, Cinesemiotics? Or is that an old message? Alright, I'll check that later. But yeah, so Vipers, you might be good to go check out Excessive Profanity and see his beheadings. If you stick around a streamer, check out some of his VODs, you'll see what I mean. Everyone is voting on beheading someone, and you get caught up in the thing, and they eventually get beheaded. Okay, I'll take a look at it after this paper. Okay. Yeah, I just noticed it. Like the whispers are all the farthest thing to my right, so I don't always see them so quickly. Okay, but yeah, I think the need for attention is really what the is going on there. So entertainment is correct, but trolls need attention. Yeah. I mean, he's Australian, so he says cunt like every 15th word or something, and if he doesn't, he like says it 5 times in a row. Well, it's not true, but I think you would like his banter. Okay. There are other arguments we find that suggest that labeling abusive behavior as mere trolling is dangerous, as doing so suggests that the online abusers are mere trolls rather than, in many cases, antisocial criminals, and so a term such as e-bile or cyber abuse might be a more apt name. Yeah, well, no, I just once in a while, of course, but like once in a while, Twitch does not work correctly. I accept being fascist. This is not a democracy. Okay. Yeah, e-bile or cyber abuse. Well, cyber abuse I think does get used sometimes. The author says, I agree with the aims of such a project. There should be no moral redemption for an act of abuse simply because it was deemed an act of trolling. However, I will argue that paying attention to similarities between the seemingly disparate acts that called trolling is also an important part of the task of avoiding dismissing abuse as mere trolling. By viewing trolling as a type of speech act with some unifying properties, we can understand how it operates as a feature of conversation and how it has spread. We can also understand that there is nothing mere about an act of trolling. It is an intrinsically divisive and manipulative act, regardless of the specific goals of the troll. This does not entail an act of trolling is necessarily morally bad. Manipulation is sometimes justifiable after all. All speech is meant to do something. You're supposed to do stuff with speech. Like, that's the whole point of talking. If you're not doing anything, you're wasting everyone's time. So you have to be, they have to be careful. Like, all speech is manipulation of a very small amount, but that's not, manipulation has, a moral, connotation to it. So, that's the thing. Being overly sensitive, the snowflake, claim is basically the opposite side of this. So it's you can't say that blame everyone for they're trying to force me to do stuff. Everyone's trying to force you to do stuff. It's just you don't care about a lot of it because most of the time it doesn't mean anything. But I don't know if that distinction is going to help right here. This thing right here, not going to be useful. The interesting consequence is that abuse should not be considered somehow more acceptable as a component of an act of trolling, mere trolling. It is in fact even more questionable when used in such a way. Once we see that an act of trolling is by nature divisive and manipulative, an act of abusive trolling is therefore better thought of as not mere trolling, but as abuse and divisive and manipulative. Well, look, the whole point of it being mere trolling, this is mere trolling, but when it becomes abusive, that's the problem. And I mean, divisive can be that, but not necessarily, and manipulative can be abusive, but not necessarily. You disagree with me or you disagree with the author? Just as if I do something wrong and lie about it, I would be held liable for 2 wrongs should the lie be discovered, the lie in the act I lie about. So too, using racist speech, for example, does not somehow become more acceptable when used as a means of trolling. The moral implication, therefore, are cumulative, not diminishing. Yeah, I mean, I think the author was overstating their point right here, but I await what your analysis. I think that this whole bit was overstated about being manipulative and bad inherently. You just disagree. Cinesemiacs, I think we both agree with that. Like, if I only was friends with people I agreed with, I wouldn't have any friends. So, like, that, like, I just disagree with most things. Defining troll. The next task, then, is to find commonality between these seemingly disparate trolling behaviors. Claire Hardacre offers a well-cited definition of what it is to be a troll. A troll is a computer-mediated communication user who constructs the identity of a sincerely wishing to be a part of the group in question, including professing or conveying pseudo-sincere intentions, but whose real intentions are to cause disruption and or to trigger or exacerbate conflict for the purposes of their own amusement. Again, there's this amusement claim. Yeah, I'm not sure it's amusement, but yeah, this makes sense that this is what people think. It's like, yeah, they're trying to join the group in order to, disrupt the group. Although useful as a starting point, this is too restrictive for current purposes. Consider the examples of T2 and T3 above. Trump nor the RIP troll appear to be making any attempt to construct an identity of wanting to be part of a group they wish to disrupt, yet both have been described as trolling. That's a little unfair. They're both politicians. They are already part of the group. And they want to be liked. That's the definition of politicians. Viper says, one of my go-to tactics is to say something designed to trigger someone with my first message, then explain my full arguments, showing that I agree with them, but also heavily implying that they shouldn't be so sensitive and quick to judge. Yeah, so it's a setup, is what you're saying. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe it's a little sneaky, but it's not necessarily bad, and I think that's right. So it's you're setting people up. You're bamboozling them sometimes. You're setting them up, and that's fine. You can set people up. Again, it's like, well, what was the end goal? It's that A, they shouldn't be so sensitive and quick to judge, and B, that like there's more to the story than they thought to begin with. And those are, I mean, you're not like screwing them up. You're just trying to show that there's more to it, and that's fine. And so it's like, yeah, what is the goal of the trolling? Is it your own amusement, or was it to actually make the conversation more interesting? It illustrates their biases more effectively than just straight up saying it. Yeah, demonstrating their biases by showing them jump up and down. I probably shouldn't tell this story, but there was I used to go to different talks in New York City where I'm at, and there was a philosopher of language, and they were from out of town. I'm not gonna say where, because that actually, if I told the city, you might be able to figure it out. But they, that's cool, Ann. Thanks for the lurk. They didn't know who I was, and they treated me like an idiot, and I basically just screwed with them the rest of the night. And they were one of these very far left philosophers, more than like usual. Like most philosophers are pretty far left, but this one was very far left, and I was mean about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cinesemiotics.
Cinesemiotics gifted 203 bits. Cinesemiotics says, Corgo 1 Triherd 100 Chair 1 Ella Jiggle 100.
I gotta find a way to stop the reading the name of the well, I don't know. Reading the name of the emotes is not terrible. But anywho. Yeah, thank you, Vipers. But yeah, I just basically made them what's it called? Oh, dagnabbit, I forgot. Yeah, no, I basically screwed them up so bad that they ended up saying like stupid things. And I probably shouldn't have done that because there was no reason for me to like make them look like an idiot. But they ended up saying stupid things, and they ended up having to tuck tail and run twice, where they realized that they had overstayed their things, and the second time was bad. Like, I think I made them feel bad in front of like some of the other people, which was unnecessary. But I was like, do not be fucking with me. I do not appreciate it. But yeah, I trolled them in person. Like with the Viper's method here. Like I would say stuff and then they'd reveal their hand. And that was mean. And I'm still happy about it. Okay, anyway. So yeah. You like my style? This is one of my guilty pleasures. When I would go to talks in New York, and because I'm not an academic, I'd just be, the independent philosopher in the room, and some people know who I am. Some people don't. And, some of the junior level professors would, overstate their stuff, and I'd ask them a question or two, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, this. And then I'd ask them another question or two, and they realized that they were fucked. And I mean, like, proper fucked. And I just enjoyed watching them, like, you see someone's face fall as, like, I'm down to 11 frames per second. It's terrible. But, like, yeah. Guilt is sacrosanct. Yeah, so that was one of my guilty pleasures, is just watching them realize that they're going to have to start apologizing very quickly. Anywho. Ordinary language use of trolling has changed since Hardaker proposed this definition, and it no longer seems correct to suggest that trolls attempt to construct an identity of sincerely wishing to be part of the group, so I'll remove this from consideration. I mean, that is sometimes what trolls do, but I guess it's not a necessary condition. Hardaker also defines a troll rather than the act of trolling. My focus is on the speech act of trolling, and so I adjust accordingly. The main point of departure, however, will be to move from the talk of sincerity to talk of seriousness. I discuss this next. That's fair, but that's not a big difference, really. Depends what you mean by these words. The troll has to come across both as serious and sincere. I mean, sincerity and seriousness. As Hardaker's definition above seems to suggest, and as we might expect considering the role of sincerity often plays when analyzing duplicitous behavior, it may be thought that the role of sincerity is essential for an understanding of trolling. As mentioned, though, I do not want to discuss trolling in terms of sincerity, the main reason for this being when thinking about sincerity, it seems right that our focus is on the relationship of the speaker to utterance. However, what is most interesting about trolling is not the relationship the speaker has to her utterance, not directly at least, but rather it is the relationship the speaker has to her intended audiences. More specifically, the main point of interest is how a troll intends her multiple audiences to take her utterance. Okay, that's fair. They just want to make the distinction that the people reading the trolling comment have to take it seriously, or sincerely. That's fine. A trolling utterance is generally placed on a widely accessible internet-based social media platform. It is most often a type of public activity. As with most internet comments, it is therefore potentially viewable by a wide audience. As is suggested in Section 2, an act of trolling the audience can be crudely divided into target and onlooker. Dividing the audience in such a way means that the targets are the audience the troll intends to troll, and the onlookers, including the troll, are the audience the troll performs the act of trolling for. If we think it seems plausible to presume that, broadly speaking, the aim of a troll in an act of trolling is to provoke a certain type of response from the target and a particular type of response from the onlooker, then it will turn out that it is not of direct importance whether a trolling utterance is made sincerely or not. Though this is not to say that on inspection of individual acts of trolling and their case-specific moral ramifications, that this utterance relationship should not be a consideration. The point is simply that the troll can sincerely utter "you" intending to troll a target, but a troll can just as plausibly sincerely utter "y" intending to troll a target. Insincerely utter "y." And in an act of trolling, the troll can say something she believes to be true, something she believes to be false, or even something she has no particularly strong beliefs about. It does not matter so long as she gets the response she is aiming for. This type of relationship to the truth of one's own utterance is perhaps closely related to Harry Frankfurt's definition of the bullshitter, of which he says, "The mode of guiding and controlling his speech is unconcerned with how the things about which he speaks truly are. He does not care whether the things he says describe reality correctly. He just picks them out or makes them up to suit his purpose." Whereas in the case of Frankfurt's bullshitter, the purpose is to convince an audience of something, we might think that in the case of trolling, the primary purpose is to provoke a particular type of action from a target. So we might say that for the purpose of an act of trolling, a troll is indifferent to their utterance beyond its utility within the act of trolling. Let us consider the first two examples in this light. Alright, so this is getting somewhere. The troll is trying to elicit a response. That is fair. T1. Ben Franklin said politicians are like Pampers. They both stink and they act like babies. Knowing as we do that Ken M is a contrived character, we might expect that the author of T1 did not utter it sincerely. He does not genuinely believe Franklin said politicians are like Pampers. On many accounts of sincerity then, McCarthy uttered T1 insincerely, and yet this is generally considered a case of trolling. It seems, however, he is still aiming for a particular type of response. Consider, too, the second part of the Trump example. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? It seems plausible that Trump is making a sincere statement in T2A. We might have good reason to think he may genuinely wish the congresswoman would go back to the places from which they came. Viper says, why is a troll a she when they're statistically likely to be male? When you're so inclusive, you become a misogynist. Yeah. You know, I was wondering that myself. But I think this, if I had to guess, the author was being an equal opportunity, philosopher. You try to use women in general just to boost the she's as opposed to he's, but I don't know. And I was wondering that. Anywho, we're not going to find the answer out to that one. As an utterance used in an act of trolling, it is the intended responses that is of most importance. Anne says, I think that a lot of this lingo is there on purpose, not to piss off some branches of feminism that want explicit inclusion. Yeah, I think that's true. Like, why is it getting done at all? It's because some people want it to show up, and so they don't want all the bad people to be one sex or gender, whatever it may be. But yeah, there is a question of all the examples were of guys trolling, but then they're using she as the the generic troll as a she here. So I mean, I'm sure these decisions had to be made by the author, and they had a reason. Was it exactly to not piss off certain feminists? Maybe. There might be other reasons though. I don't know. Whether or not Trump is sincere in uttering T2A is secondary to the fact that he did utter it, and the nature of what it is he has said, and the use of racist tropes makes a particular type of response likely. With this in mind, I suggest then that the particular type of response both Ken M and Trump are aiming at is related to the notion of seriousness. Yeah, I mean, he could just be pissed off too, Vipers. I use this notion of seriousness to help characterize how a speech act of trolling works. So next I'll offer a few thoughts as to what I take this to be. A good starting point is to consider the seriousness and its relationship to joking. Yeah. That's what most people say, oh, I was just joking. Even when it's not a very good joke. It doesn't make sense to call it a joke, but that's what they say, it's a joke. You know, I used to send emails to all the authors that I wrote papers to, and one of the papers I was like, I don't know if any of you guys were here this long ago, but I was like, this person is really angry. Like, someone hurt this person or pissed them off or something or other, because they are like really, really angry. And that's the only way this paper got written, was when they were really pissed off about something. And the author got back to me and said, yes, I was very angry, and I didn't do it. And what I did about it was I wrote a philosophy paper to get my anger out. And that's what I did. Instead of taking it out in a bad way, they took it out in a good way and wrote a philosophy paper. But like that, you can definitely see that in some papers. Like, there is some other thing going on in how they wrote it. All right. Say S makes a joke to an audience. Conventionally, we might expect that in making the joke, S intends to make her audience laugh. It could plausibly be that be the case that S sincerely believes the joke expresses some truth, and as cliches suggest, many a true word is said in jest, and sometimes something is funny because it's true. A drive-by philosophy paper? Yeah. However, there is certainly no requirement that a joke is of this nature. And it says, like me at the moment, I'm so angry about family issues that it's pushed me to finally move out and close some doors. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's very different reasons why things get done. And sometimes it shows up in weird ways. So, and sometimes you can see it, and sometimes you can see that something happened, you don't know what. But when people are pushed to do things, or there's something major going on, you know, if you're not dumb and they're like sophisticated people, sometimes it comes out in like, you can like, if you know something, like either psychologically, physically, something's happening. Okay. However, there is certainly no requirement that a joke is of this nature. Satire, parody, irony, sarcasm, and absurdity are all well-worn jocular devices, and by their nature, none of these require that an utterance is made sincerely. Take irony, for example. Traditionally, philosophers have treated irony as saying P to convey something like not P. A speaker, therefore, can make a joke by making some utterance sincerely or insincerely. So although sincerity might be salient when discussing specific jokes, for a general account, it is of little interest. You know, certain jokes require it, so it is of some interest. But like I think certain forms of trolling require some level of sincerity, but again, like certain jokes would. So it's of some interest. I don't know about little interest, but yeah. What I suggest is of interest when thinking about jokes in general is the way in which the audience takes the utterance rather than the sincerity or insincerity of the joker. And this is the case with trolling. Of importance when considering trolling in general is not whether the troll is sincere, but rather the seriousness with which she intends her audience to take her utterance. I will return to the discussion of seriousness in sections 4.2 and 4. This is a typo, 4.2 and 4.2 next, though I speak more specifically about trolling in the relationship of troll to onlooker and troll to target. What I want to say is that in uttering you, a troll intends that the target to take you to likely be a serious utterance, and the onlooker to take you as to likely be an unserious utterance. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if I believe that. Valpo, hey, welcome and hope you're well. It's, this is, I think, old, we're just retreading a lot of ground that everyone here already knows, because everyone here is actually online, on Twitch enough that they understand basically everything that's been said so far. So we actually haven't gotten anywhere interesting. This has all been groundwork so far. I'm still waiting to see if there's a really good point. I think already the author has made some, like one or two mistakes. Viper's also pointed it out. But yeah, they're basically laying some groundwork. It's all been just sort of like descriptive at this point. There's not been a really huge thing. It's been okay. It's not a disaster. But yeah, like I'm trying to think. Is there anything that's actually been interesting? No, actually, I don't think anything here has been like particularly. They're just laying the groundwork, really. I mean, or they're just being descriptive. I haven't found anything like particularly insightful yet, but it's been basically on point. They mostly are right, but there's nothing that like anyone like us like on Twitch wouldn't already have been able to come up with. All right, perlocutionary intentions. All right, and I hope they'll define what perlocutionary it is very quickly. Otherwise, I'll get on it. As my interest is in trolling as a speech act, and as Section 3.3 discusses the role of intended audience responses under the guise of seriousness, it seems apt to consider some of the foundational work on speech act theory, specifically what J.L. Austin says of perlocutions. Austin says, saying something produces certain consequential effects upon the feelings, thoughts, or actions of the audience, and it may be done with the design, intention, or purpose of producing them. Perlocutionary acts, then, aim at certain effects. As Austin says later, perlocutionary acts always include some consequences and are what we bring about or achieve by saying something such as convincing, persuading, deterring. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to say perlocutionary, you have to basically cite Austin. Yeah. So perlocutionary means that what is the effect you're trying to get an effect in the listener. So the design, intention, or purpose of producing them. So that's what a perlocutionary is saying something, trying to get a consequence of some sort of producing a feeling, thought, or action from the audience. So if I were to persuade you of something by uttering you, it requires that you are persuaded by you. The perlocutionary effect is that you were persuaded, and my act in persuading you was the perlocutionary act. Francois Connolly, I apologize for how I said your name, refers to the intention to produce these types of responses as perlocutionary intention, as a perlocutionary intention, and so a perlocutionary intention is an intention that a perlocutionary effect produced by some utterance. Yeah, so you have an intention to cause something to happen to someone else. Fine. Considering HT and what has been said so far about seriousness, this seems to correlate with an act of trolling. Trivially speaking, a troll will naturally have perlocutionary intentions when making a trolling utterance, and these can be numerous and diverse even within a single act. We cannot hope to account for all such intentions, so what I aim to do next is to suggest some primary intentions common to acts of trolling. Typically, perlocutionary effects are considered to be such things as convincing, deterring, surprising, and misleading. In the case of a specific act of trolling, a troll's perlocutionary intention might, for example, be to cause disruption, anger, confusion, or to fluster or unnerve a target in some way. However, this will be case specific, and indeed, even specifying one of these perlocutionary intentions for a single act of trolling might prove difficult, for a troll could very plausibly be aiming for any or none of these responses. As such, we need to take a step away from these more traditional types of perlocutionary effect and think of something more general. That is more general, though, is not to say it is less complex. Indeed, what I propose is a multifaceted notion. Then get on with it, motherfucker. It seems to be that there are two distinct sets of perlocutionary intentions attached to an act of trolling, which relates to the troll's relationship to her multiple intended audiences. Recall section 3.3. Their trolling is discussed in terms of two distinct audiences. The first is the target of the act of trolling, the fish the troll intends to catch, and the second, which includes the troll, is the onlooker, the group that the act of trolling is performed for the benefit of. Let's look now then at how the relationship between the troll and these two audiences differ by elaborating on the corresponding set of perlocutionary intentions. Yeah, see, if y'all are like regular, have been here many times before, this is one of the things that like drives me nuts about philosophy. These people, and it's been mentioned, philosophers take forever to say anything. Like, say something already. And it's like, well, why are you just like drawing this out? It's like, come on, control them. But like, are we getting trolled just by like those jokes that go on and on forever and ever and like you never get a punchline? That's a troll. Ugh. Viper says, when I reject the troll label, should instead self-identify as a conversational poet or as a perlocutionary revolutionary. Perlocutionary revolutionary is pretty good. You should go with that. Conversational poet makes you sound like you're sitting there in like verse or something. Like you talk in iambic pentameter. I doubt it. But like, yeah. Okay. Perlocutionary revolutionary is I think that's good. Like when you like, I'm not a troll. I'm a like. Granted, the people have to know what perlocutionary actually means, but like that's fun. Okay, perlocutionary intentions. Troll target. The first set of perlocutionary intentions relates to troll and target. We might expect this first set includes any or more or less. Yeah, you know. More or less of the above-mentioned traditional types of perlocutionary intentions depending on the specific act, plus the effect that the target takes the troll's utterance to be taken seriously. Interlocutive investigator. Okay, Yeah, it has to be taken seriously. Another way we might put this is to say that to be taken to be worthy of serious consideration or to be taken as a serious statement. Regardless of the case specific content of this set, it will also include the perlocutionary intention that the target act in a specific way. To put this another way, although some specific trolls will likely have a number of specific perlocutionary intentions, each of these intentions is secondary to the primary perlocutionary intention to provoke a target into a certain type of response. This certain type of response, I suggest, is that a target takes the trolling utterance to be an utterance requiring serious attention and act accordingly. Yeah, I mean, the troll has to grab someone's attention. This is what I was saying. I think trolling is more about grabbing attention. And so requiring serious attention means that it is requiring attention. That's it. Maybe not serious attention, but it has to grab people's attention. That is, the intention is for a target to respond to the trolling utterance as if it were a serious statement worthy of a serious response. This does not, however, preclude that a target might be uncertain as to the level of seriousness with which they should take the trolling utterance. Invigilator. Overseer of someone being tested to ensure they don't cheat. Oh, interesting. Did not know that word. Cool. Thank you, Cinesemiotics. This does not, however, preclude that a target might be uncertain as to level of seriousness which they take the trolling utterance. A target may strongly suspect that the troll is indeed a troll and be suspicious that the troll's intention is to make some target respond in such a way, yet even suspecting this to be the case does not entail that they would not respond as if the troll has made a serious statement. Take the Trump example, T2. Many of those his targets might assume he's trolling, that he has some intention to make them respond in a way that entertains him and his onlooker audience, yet they might still respond in a way amenable to his trolling. Well, this is the thing. In politics, you might have to respond to your audience also because that's part of the political play, is that if he's, doing something for his audience, you have to correspondingly do something for your audience. Yeah. Yeah. I wish you a good move, Infernal. Things get complicated. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm not loving this person's analysis of Trump, but mostly this is right, I think. Perlocutionary intentions. The troll onlooker. The second set of perlocutionary intentions relates to the troll. Oh, maybe this is what it was. Like, you have to see, there's an interplay here between who you are acting and for. You have to do two things. You have to act for people and against other people. And so this is part of the thing. The second set of perlocutionary intentions relates to troll and onlooker. The intentions in this set might include entertaining, amusing, or provoking laughter, for example. It's not immediately obvious that the troll has any specific action-based perlocutionary intention, as is the case with the troll target set, and an onlooker need not play an active role in a trolling interaction. I mean, the audience can be completely made up in the troll's head. There doesn't actually have to be anyone specific that they're acting for in reality. It could just be in their head. And I think that happens a bit with some of the more crazy trolls out there. Who or what they're acting for is irrelevant. They just think they're acting for some greater purpose. What we can say, though, is that included in this set of perlocutionary intentions is that the onlooker does not take the troll utterance to be a serious statement in the way the target does. The intention of the troll is that an onlooker view the utterance as something like a joke or an unserious utterance. This in itself adds a layer of complication that can also help us distinguish seriousness from sincerity. For even if an onlooker takes the utterance to be unserious, as they might do a joke, this is not to say that they do not endorse it or agree with it. Let's consider T2A again. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? It's certainly plausible that some members of the onlooker's audience will believe Trump uttered T2A sincerely, and they themselves might even endorse the view expressed in the tweet. However, even if this is the case, it is not incompatible with them taking the utterance to be unserious. Consider again the correlation between joking and unseriousness. A joke can be taken to be amusing by an audience for a range of reasons. A joke might strike us as humorous because it is a shrewd observation, or surprising, or cleverly constructed, for example, but there is also an element of humor that develops from the confounding of social expectation or conventions. Jokes often play a taboo-breaking social role. It is in this socially confounding way that the onlooker takes some utterance to be unserious. Recall then that in section 3.3 it was suggested that seriousness, unlike sincerity, does not take as its locus the relationship between speaker and utterance, but rather the focus is on the relationship of utterance and audience. So although Trump may well sincerely utter T2 and some onlooker may endorse his view, there is also no requirement for an act of trolling that either do endorse it or that it is required, or all that is required is the recognition of the way the utterance functions socially. In this case, what may be happening is a challenge to the idea that it is socially unacceptable to say racist things. We can see this type of social taboo breaking in an even more extreme form by looking at T3 again. T3. I and the rest of the world are pleased that you're a piece of shit family are dead, squashed, filthy shit rotting around in the ground. Especially those two filthy babies that were squashed. Rest in piss, you fucking rodent pieces of shit. There is clearly a social norm by which it is rarely acceptable to speak ill of the dead. There also seems to be something even more socially distasteful about insulting the mourning families of the deceased, and yet another more shocking layer is added when making light of the death of babies. I mean, dead baby jokes are kind of funny, I guess. Used to think so, at least. We do not know much about the disposition of the author of T3 or their beliefs regarding the comment, so it could plausibly be that T3 is a sincere utterance and the author could simply be intending to do nothing more than cause distress, for example. However, the fact that this is not an isolated example, and indeed RIP trolling is a well-documented phenomenon, we have good cause to think that the author is not merely abusing the families of the victims, though they are indeed doing this. If it is an act of trolling, then they are engaged in abuse and also using this abusive speech as a tool in an act of trolling. Phillips argues that some of the rationale behind RIP trolling is a reaction to a perceived mawkishness in internet responses to tragedies, and utterances such as T3 are used to respond to this wider social trend. Alright, so I think this is what Vipers was saying actually earlier, that this is a backlash against the conformity of speech on the internet. If this is the case, then utterances such as T3 can be viewed from certain angles as a form of satire, which again moves us back toward the dual intentional nature of an act of trolling. Okay, so you've got the satire for the audience and then the target of the satire who's not going to take it very kindly because you're being mean. But it's satire for the audience then. Yeah, I want a stream workroom too that's not this messy room. Oh, that would be so nice. Suppose then that the author of T3 wishes to satirize responses to tragedy found on the internet by making an utterance of polar extremity to those customarily left on memorial pages. If this is the case, then in this sense T3 is to be viewed by onlookers as an unserious statement. It's satire. However, clearly the posting of such a comment in a social space wherein most other comments are sympathetic in nature will have a particular effect, and addressed as it is specifically at the families of the deceased, it seems that part of the joke is that this is such an offensive thing to say that a target will likely have a strong emotional reaction to it. Unless they accept it as satire, then they might seem to have little choice but to respond seriously to the utterance, even if they suspect it is an act of trolling. The problem for the target, then, is how to respond is not clear. This, I suggest, is the trolling dilemma. So here's the point that the author wanted to make, and we were suggesting earlier that this is kind of silly. Like, that you can't respond to trolling because it's not worth it to respond to the troll. Is this really a dilemma? I think this is just sort of, this is what I was worried about. This is where we were going, and I'm not sure I'm going to like this conclusion. But let's find out. The trolling dilemma. Central to the spread and success of the phenomenon of trolling and its complex sociolinguistic role is something we might call the trolling dilemma. Religion, Orthodox Greek? Look at this. This sentence right here, like, this is like smacking of like overdoing the philosophy here. It's like, central to the spread and success of the phenomenon of trolling and its complex socio-linguistic role is something we might call the trolling dilemma. Is this really going to be central to it? Let's find out. The dilemma faced is in how to respond to an act of trolling. As such, it does not really arise when an act of trolling is successful, in the sense that the target is unaware that they are being trolled and responds seriously to a trolling utterance. We do see the dilemma, however, in almost all other cases wherein a potential target is suspicious they might have encountered a troll. So this is the thing. Okay, so if you know it's a troll, then the dilemma doesn't arise. Then how is it central to the spread? Alright, so it's only in cases where people don't know what's going on. Alright, so that's fine. So you're in the uncertain space, which is most cases. Oh, Orthodox geek. I missed what you said, Vipers. Okay. Consider again Trump and the RIP troll. Many readers encountering T2 or T3 might be suspicious that these are trolling utterances. In being suspicious in such a way, the reader might also suspect that the intentions of Trump and the RIP troll are for the target to take these utterances seriously in some sense and respond accordingly. Responding to the trolling utterance in such a way, though, allows the troll to successfully troll. The respondent thus becomes the target and does precisely what the troll wants. However, to not respond as if the trolling utterance are serious statements and simply dismiss them as acts of trolling can therefore allow a president to use racist tropes or an RIP troll to direct abuse at mourners without challenge. In effect, what this means is that a president using racist tropes can be dismissed as engaging in mere trolling. See, this is the problem. Right here. The internet does not have a good, society does not have a good way of punishing people for saying bad stuff. And what this author has just done is saying by pushing it onto like the individual as calling it a mere troll, they have given society a pass for allowing racist speech to go unchecked. And so I don't like this because I think it's pushing all of the responsibility onto the individual readers, whereas there's platforms and social and the technology platforms and the social enforcement mechanisms we have are being just don't exist here. Cinesemiac says, but trolls usually start out with an intentional projection of innocuousness. The elements of surprise and betraying implied trust are involved in effective trolling. If everything was trilling, that would be funny. Yeah, so they have to sort of like build up a level of not trust, but reputation before you can actually be an effective troll. But like that's also part of the problem here, that it's like you are getting into this you're getting into this space where people might take you seriously, but that's because you have built up a reputation. But again, this is putting everything onto the people when these statements are like obviously racist and we have just let it go. Yeah. So I'm not like, I think the author is correct in some sense here, but I do not like sort of the kind of dismissal they're saying. It can be dismissed as mere trolling, but that's on a personal level. It shouldn't be at a social level. Like, why should we allow the president to say racist shit like this? It's not what we typically call trust, but it's like a trust level knob that's not set at 0. Well, this is why I mean reputation is what this is. You have to have there's a reputation level, and so you have a little bit of trust with someone who has a reputation, like that you might be better than the president is supposed to have a reputation of being a serious person, and that's getting abused. And yeah, that's right. And we shouldn't tolerate everything for the sake of tolerance. That's right, Ann. So it's like, but this is what I mean. The author here has dismissed the way we are dismissing mere trolling, saying, well, people didn't know because of the reputation. Well, how is any individual person supposed to respond to any troll? It's not possible. But like at the level of what we're talking about here, there could be other mechanisms at work, and so this is what I'm sort of pushing. Like, I'm a little worried about what the author just said. It's like, of course, people don't know what other people are saying all the time, and you're like, well, you try to give them the benefit of the doubt, and then people are abusing the benefit of the doubt. That's what's happening. But like, you're like, oh, they're being an idiot? Well, no, you're being racist. That's not being an idiot. That's being racist. Okay, Author says, if the division I suggest that exists between a target and onlooker reflects the structure of an act of trolling, there might be another unpalatable conclusion to be drawn too. In not responding, we might by default be an onlooker too. If we assume Trump is just joking or the RIP troll is merely satirizing in order to troll, then we take their utterances to be unserious. We do not endorse T2 or T3, and we might find them repugnant, but we take them to be unserious in the sense that we do not take them to be utterances worthy of serious response. This could even be the case in the example of T1, though with much less worrying moral implications. Then T1, they just want to bring the joke up again because this was, well, they're going to talk about. Ben Franklin said politicians are like Pampers, they both stink and they act like babies. Yeah. But yeah, again, I don't like this. Not everyone can, get all angry about every last thing Trump says. Like, I just don't have time for that crap. It's like, why is that my fault? I'm not just an onlooker. I just don't have time. Semi-Axis, we need a legion of reformed trolls or the equivalent of the Hells Angels of counter trolls. And now that I think about this, actually does exist. The SJW. Yeah, the social justice warriors. I mean, but again, this is like trying to meet fire with fire. Everyone's just going to get burned. And this is what I mean when you're putting the responsibility on all the individual onlookers and not this author didn't mention that maybe Twitter should take some responsibility here. Maybe, the internet governing bodies should take some responsibility here. This is not showing up in this paper at all right here. Like, it's not. And that's what's concerning to me. That we're dismissed it as engaged in mere trolling, but that's at the personal level. It's like we don't have time to, have reputation systems that understand everything. Oh, that's what you're saying? That is the point? Thank you for trolling me. Yeah, I've told this before, but I had people coming into this stream a long time ago claim they were Antifa and tried to and fuck with my stream. Because they thought I was somebody I wasn't. And I was like, you guys have got me wrong. But it was annoying as fuck. I basically had to spend 20 minutes convincing them I wasn't a racist Nazi person, and before they went away, and I could then continue with philosophy roulette. But it was a hassle. So you wonder if the authors considered other cultures other than English speaking. I have no idea. This looks very USA centric. Or at least Western politics centric, as in Western Europe. You are Antifa. Oh, so you were the one coming in here and accusing me of being a Nazi. Awesome. I mean, I'm anti-fascist. Anti-fuck all. You blame the weed? No, don't blame the weed. Of all the things, the weed is good. Makes everyone happy. Anywho, it's plausible that a reader of this Ben Franklin line. Yeah, the author is a Brit, I know. But, it's very Western politics centric, so. Yeah, it's plausible that a reader of T1 might assume it to be a joke. It's verifiably wrong. It makes little sense. T1 did receive what appears to be serious responses, though. Recall it was pointed out that to Ken M that Pampers did not exist during Franklin's time. I assume we mean that everyone in the world has internet access. Wow. See, this is the other funny thing here. You're treating everyone on the internet like they have a brain. There's a lot of people that are just idiots out there. And it's are we treating them with equal status as non-idiots? And that's part of a problem here, is that the trolls can get all these idiots that are out there and low-hanging fruit. And that does the work for them because, trolls in being entertaining then gain a following, and then that's how social media works. And that's a problem too. Okay, again, we have no knowledge of what the respondent thought of T1, but even if they were suspicious that T1 was not intended to be a serious remark, not knowing for certain might still be reason enough to respond in a way amenable to the troll target intentions. Yeah, the old Carlin quote, think of how stupid the average person is and realize half of them are stupider than that. Yeah. Sinesemiak says, no, we should not assume that the social paradigm of Westerners may not have the same problems in other user communities. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that this paper has mentioned Ken M, who I think is from the United States, Donald Trump, and then RIP trolling about like something in Florida. So yeah, it just seems very USA centric to me, at least. But I don't know. Yeah, I do believe the author is British, and it may have said Cambridge University earlier, but that doesn't mean they haven't been like looking at like British or United States politics. Oh, okay. Well, we are piggish. Okay. So yeah, University of Sheffield. Sure. Okay. So being the case that someone was actually thinking that Ken M was serious, then even an example as seemingly innocuous as T1 might push someone towards the dilemma. From that particular point of view, the dilemma is, should one respond seriously to a suspected act of trolling and so become a target in a successful act of trolling, or should one let the demonstrably false claim go unchallenged? That such a dilemma arises out of an act of trolling, I suggest, is part of the reason why trolling has been embraced by political actors in recent years, particularly those wishing to propagate divisive, violent ideologies. The ambiguity, dual identity of an act of trolling as speech that can be responded to either seriously or unseriously allows those with racist views, for example, to make their public racist ideas, but with enough ambiguity that an effective response is difficult to formulate. It's not difficult to formulate. You call them out for being racist, and then they say, oh, I'm joking. It's like, no, then don't joke that way. Vapel says, so what about trolls who troll for good causes, like Socrates, maybe, or John Fetterman from Pennsylvania shitposting his ways towards the U.S. Senate? Well, that's the thing. This is the Ken M thing. Like, Ken M was just poking fun at a lot of the dumb things politicians were saying, and it's like, well, do you respond to Ken M saying something like obviously stupid that there were Pampers back in Ben Franklin's day? Yeah, Banksy is like an artistic troll, and that's a great example, Infernal. But say, like, this is the dilemma that, like, there's some big dilemma here. This is what philosophers have to do, make dilemmas. That, like, if you respond to the person being an idiot, then you're taken as someone who's responding to an idiot that makes you a bit of an idiot. But if you don't respond to them as an idiot, what do you say to them? You're just calling them stupid, and then they say, well, it was a joke, and you didn't get it. Well, no, you have to call them out for being an asshole, is what you're doing. And if everyone did that, that wouldn't be a problem. I don't see this as being so difficult. If everyone just called Trump an asshole for all the dumb shit he said, that would be fine. They'd be like, oh, he's joking. No one thinks it's funny, really, to make racist shit. I mean, unless you're another racist. It's like, that is the only time you think it's okay to, like, say stupid racist things. But, yeah. There's a lot of them, but like we should just call him racist. We shouldn't call him like funny or trolling. So like I'm a little lost as to like what do you mean an effective response is difficult to formulate? The effective response in dealing with Nazis is you punch them in the face. Punch the Nazis. That's usually the effective response. You have to hit them back hard, and like that's simple. You don't let them be like, oh, I was just joking, dude. That's not funny. So, like, but see, this is why I don't like this paper. It feels like it's a little bit of a wuss out on what actually gets things done. Okay, that in such a case of the trolling dilemma can give at least the appearance that there is no good response. The troll either succeeds in trolling when taken seriously, or racist views remain unchallenged or dismissed as mere trolling when taken unseriously, provides the racist statement with the status of not befitting its actual content. That is, it can appear like a view or argument that has no adequate response. However, in the case of trolling, it is not the argument itself that carries this dilemma, but rather it is the ambiguity built into the rhetorical device and act of trolling used to deliver it. There is another closely related side to the appeal of trolling to these groups too, and I call this topic, and this is the topic I discuss next, the cloak of humor. The cloak of humor. So far, the characterization of speech act trolling has been based around the notion of seriousness. This notion, I claim, is closely related to joking. As such, it is worth considering the role of humor in trolling in a little more detail. The trolling is often malignant, bullying, and abusive, and is increasingly used as a tool of propaganda. Might make it seem odd to suggest that a form of humor or unseriousness underpins it. However, when we remind ourselves that humor can be used to dehumanize, poke fun, and bully, and can also be used to mark mark out us and them, then it need not be thought to somehow dampen the force of an act of trolling. A racist joke is still a racist remark, just as a sexist joke is still sexist. That is shrouded in the cloak of humor makes it no less potent. In fact, there is an argument to be made that it becomes even more forceful in this guide. Indeed, consider what Hobbes describes in his famous description of what has come to be known as the superiority view of humor. I may therefore conclude that the passion of laughter is nothing else but sudden glory arising from some sudden conception of eminency in ourselves, by comparison with the infirmity of others. It is no wonder, therefore, that men take heinously to be laughed at or derided, that is, triumphed over. Although Hobbes' account does not seem to fit with many forms of humor, it captures something of the nature of trolling. If the target is merely a prop in an act of trolling, then in Hobbes' terms, the troll's aim is to triumph over the target, and they do this for the entertainment of the onlooker. If this is correct, then what seems to be built into the act of trolling is a natural division between onlooker and target. The target becomes a mere figure of fun, as I will discuss in section 6.2, and this has some serious consequences. Before considering this, though, I want to discuss how trolling acts can provide a level of deniability to trolling utterances. This is fair. Like, you're definitely trying to pull people down with trolling statements. You're trying to get them to engage in a stupid, it's the old wrestle with pigs and everyone gets muddy. You're trying to pull them down into a waste their time argument about stupid things that don't matter. So that's definitely part of trolling. And we're almost done, by the way. Like, this should be page 13, and we're on page 11 now. So there are good reasons why we might want to avoid dismissing Trump using racist tropes as mere trolling, however. This type of deniability is invoked in Trump's defense, even implicitly by his critics. Riper says, is all comedy an act of trolling, leading people down a path with unexpected outcomes? Well, this is the problem with this definition here, is that it's too general in terms of act of trolling. Like, trolling, is a comedy set an act of trolling? No, it's a comedy set. Act of trolling implies you're doing something for, unwittingly leading people down a thing. In a comedy set, they're there to be entertained. In trolling, they're usually not there to be entertained. It's something else. And so this is the problem here, is that their definition here makes it sound like, because it was all just manipulation and, whatever. It makes the definition of trolling a little too wide here. Okay. That is, this type of defense might seem available gives us reason to consider that in some respects trolling operates in similar way to a racial fig leaf, such as discussed by Jenny Saul. A successful racial fig leaf operates by offering a block on the inference from an utterer making a racist comment to the conclusion that the utterer is racist. I'm not racist, but being a familiar example. If it is accepted that Trump is trolling when uttering racist tropes, then it leaves open the possibility to read his utterances unseriously. So if it is viewed by an onlooker as merely a means to wind up those who do take it seriously, or to force them to confront the trolling dilemma rather than taking it as a serious utterance, then this changes what it becomes acceptable to say. As Saul puts it, if the audience accepts that the fig leaf blocks the concern about racism arising from the utterance of racist sentence R, then R becomes seen as something one can say without being a racist. Similarly, if someone were to accept that by uttering T2 Trump is merely trolling, this too might provide a block to the concern of racism that Trump's utterance of the racist T2 might ordinarily entail. A conclusion from that being that if T2 is uttered in an act of trolling, then T2 is not necessarily racist. So, whereas the type of fig leaf characterized by Saul, a speaker will offer some qualifying remark, in the act of trolling, the act itself operates in this way. Well, no. The act itself, in that people grant it that status as a joke, acts in that way. Again, this should give us cause for concern and points again to the problem posed by the trolling dilemma. For if we dismiss T2 as an act of mere trolling, we give credence to the notion that T2 can be uttered without caveat in a non-racist way, or perhaps less strongly in a less racist way. We are in danger of accepting it as an effective fig leaf. The dilemma is such, though, that if we do respond to Trump's racism, then we become props in Trump's act of trolling. See, this is the thing. Just call him out for being a racist. You don't call him out for being like, oh, like it's always just a joke. No, just be like, no, that's racist. But you also don't have to respond to the rest of it. It's like, that's the thing. You have to hit him on the important thing. And that's why I like this sort of thing where you're saying, oh, he's either joking or he's being completely stupid, or you're taking it too seriously. This is the dilemma that the author is trying to say that we have no good answer to, but that misses the third way of just saying, no, you're a dipshit, and you have to target them on the dipshit claim. Yeah, we could use a Venn diagrams here. Viper says, never occurred to me to look it up before, but fig leaves max out about 9 inches in length. Imagine putting that in your religion. Weird flex, but okay. Yeah, I mean, not everyone, I guess, is going to qualify for a fig leaf then. Shucks. Anyway. What kind of leaf do you need, Vipers? Do you need one of those elephant ears? Okay, humor and propaganda. The use of humor and propaganda is not new. Humorous media, such as cartoons and caricatures, have been used effectively in recent history as a means of disseminating political messages. What seems to set trolling apart, though, is that not only can it be used to disseminate ideas, but the people those ideas reach are then equipped to use the trolling as a means to disseminate them further, even if they are just joking. So even if a troll is initially drawn solely to the seeming irreverent and taboo-breaking humor of using, for example, racial slurs in an act of trolling, and even if they do not take themselves to sincerely hold racist beliefs, when they use them in an act of trolling, they are still spreading racist ideas. In doing this, the troll is still contributing to a divisive climate, both in the content of what they say and also with the type of speech act they are using. Tomato calyx would probably do. Oh, I can't remember what a tomato calyx looks like. Tomato is like, is that the teeny one? Is that what you're saying? Is that the... Okay. For it seems that making unpalatable ideas appear in some way less serious can detract from their insidiousness, yet can still be used to broadcast them further. Not only can it be used to broadcast them, but can also make them more appealing. Humorousness and unseriousness are attractive qualities after all. Yeah, the green bic at the top, I got you. Following on from this, it should also be noted that trolling has become an effective method of spreading authoritarian and far-right ideas in recent times, and based on the previous discussion, we might have some good reason to expect trolling to be such a natural vehicle for this type of idea. One of Jason Stanley's overall points in his analysis of the tactics used by fascists to gain power is that they seek to separate populations, divide and conquer. Nothing new there. Trolling as an act does this regardless of the content of the utterance. It is built in to an act of trolling that there be a target and an onlooker, and that the target is objectified. Alright, semiotics and the other rhetoricians here. This is starting to get to me. Is built into an act of trolling that there be a target and an audience. What are the classic rhetorical categories? There's always a target and an audience. There's always two, like, these different sort of categories you're talking about. This is just like going back to old school basic rhetoric. So it's like, I'm not, like, this is kind of driving me, like, what is the insight here that there's this ambiguity. Are we not taking them seriously? Are we taking them seriously? Is there an audience? Is there like a whatever? It's just being like sort of like abusive in your rhetoric, but like that's all trolling was. Is this actually getting at the deep thing? I mean, I understand that this sort of dilemma, like, do you respond to the troll seriously or do you respond to them like they're joking? Yeah, that is a little bit of a problem, but like, again, why are you giving these people credit? Yes, Vipers, I knew what I was doing. I mean, there's like, you know, but you're always performing for some audience. Always. Like this, I feel like this paper needed another like 6 months of like thought put into it. Shane, what's up? It's a meta troll. Well, I mean, I've done this to myself. That is philosophy roulette. That's why it's roulette. I do not know what I'm getting myself into. And how you doing, Shane? I hope you're well. Give Shane give Shane. Oh, I should have given. Let me give Ann also a shout out after Shane. Shane is fantastic. He's a sociologist and a historian. And if y'all have not checked out Shane, you should do that. And also, we need to shout out Ann because I'm a bad streamer and I forget these things. But Ann also is wonderful and very smart and been playing video games and discussing stuff, and it's good. So if y'all don't know Ann or Shane, go check out their streams. Well, this is not going to be on my recommendations list. You doing okay? Had a big list of stuff to do today and didn't get done with it all. I've started to have to make lists. I never had to make lists before in my life, but like in the last like few years, and like then I'm like making like daily lists of things I need to get done by like this week. What's it called? There's a journal that both Aris and I have submitted to in the past and got published, and it's they've got a hard limit of this Friday, and I'm trying to get something done. I think I'm gonna get it done by in time, so I'm feeling good about that, but it still needs significant work.
You're winning, sir. Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, Semiotics.
Sign Semiotics gifted 42 bits. Sign Semiotics says Party 42.
Party 42. Hell yeah. So yeah, I hope you're getting your stuff done, Shane. Yeah, things are piling up. Yeah, if I don't like stream on Wednesdays because I'm trying to get that paper done by like Thursday so I can send it out by Friday. Anywho. Okay. Yes, there's an audience and a target in all your discussions. Like, but that's classically known. And that the target is objectified. Yes, that's the point of being an ass about it and trolling. And the target is a prop the target is a prop in an act of trolling, and their worth is as a mere source of amusement. Yeah, that's what it is to be an asshole. You're using other people for your amusement. This in itself need not be socially divisive, such as in the case of T1, which seems so absurd as to not be genuinely divisive. However, even innocuous seeming T1 includes a target to be laughed at, and even T1 can make a reader confront the trolling dilemma. So when already divisive political ideas are loaded into the act of trolling, the divisiveness of the act itself in combination with the divisiveness of the content makes for a powerfully disruptive act. If I'm right about the humor component of trolling too, there is further cause for division. To the onlooker, a target is lacking humor, they do not get the joke. So there is a division between those who get the joke and those who do not. The power of that, as an enforcer of disharmony, should not be underestimated. Humor is not to be taken lightly, and if trolling is a form of humor, then this makes it no less of a serious matter. Responding to an act of trolling. One important question this all leads to is on the matter of what the best response to an act of trolling might be. One frequent exhortation we see in online communicative environments is do not feed the trolls. Such an approach of ignoring those suspected of trolling behavior can of course be useful in some cases in which the troll is not using slurs or hate speech as a means of trolling, though when applied to cases such as a Trump tweet, for example, such an approach is not a realistic response, and it might seem contrary to the moral commitments many of us might have to challenging hate speech when we encounter it, and when we are in a position to challenge it, to simply ignore such utterances. This approach would seem to allow the unchecked propagation of racist ideas such as those found in T2. Though of course if my analysis of the dynamics of trolling in which an act of trolling forces upon the target the trolling dilemma is correct, then part of the problem with a serious response is that it allows the troll a victory of sorts in having a claim to have trolled a target. Further to this problem, the structure of social media and the way information spreads on the internet entails that any well-meaning response to an act of T2 also necessarily draws attention to T2 itself. Part of the power of the trolling dilemma is in the potential for paralysis of response it creates. I think the best solution to this problem will vary depending on the nature of a specific act and will require cross-disciplinary work. See, this is what's getting me. No talk of the responsibility of the internet companies and the structure of like society here. Like it's just saying, oh, we have to figure out what the heck to do. We already know what to do. Trump got kicked off Twitter. He got kicked off Twitter. You have to like ban people from your chat sometimes. Like I can ban you, and that's basically if enough people ban your account, then it forces you to go make another account. But like that's work for the troll at this point. So it's like these are the things that like this person's like, oh, we don't know what to do. Well, there are things to do. You have to like take more strong action, and this is annoying me on just like oh, we're under a dilemma and we can't do anything. Please. For example, although structurally similar to the other examples, we might think of how we might respond to cases such as T1 is not as important as we respond to the cases of T2 or T3, as the stakes are much lower. Whether one is trolled by Ken M and how one responds is of little overall societal importance. Banhammer, exactly. Well, that's what I mean. You have to punch someone in the face. Like, sometimes I'm not much on punching people in the face, but sometimes that is the best response. Is you have to be forceful with people, and that everything in this paper suggests don't do that because it sounds like it's like scary or something. Yet how we respond to racist, misogynistic, or xenophobic trolling utterances is of great importance. And so this is the type of trolling that we should be most interested in developing responses to. Yes. Oh no, we have to figure out what to do. It's not that hard. Yeah, the author's problem, he doesn't have mods. Exactly. Twitch now has a feature that allows streamers to pre-ban users that have been banned from other channels. This is what I mean, Shane. Like, this is the thing. Granted, this is a philosophy paper. It had to have been written like 2 years ago or whatever, and then it's getting published. This all takes time. But like, this is part of the thing. Like, that this author seems like we don't know what to do and we have to figure it out. No, there are things to be done and could have been done, and like Twitch is doing some of them and YouTube does other things. But it's like, this is what I mean. Like, there can be structural things to actually fix the problem, as opposed to being like, oh, we don't know how to respond to people. And says I start to write lists, even, oh, you got the post-it notes. Yeah, and then you forget to look at the lists. But yeah, I have a to-do list on my phone now, which is kind of a to-do app. It's kind of nice. And it's good because I forget stuff every so often. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote that down. Cinesemiac says, wait, are you seriously punched physically as a response to speech? I've always been appalled by that. I've never known who's serious about it, but it terrifies me, partly because one has to be taken at a word that she is a Nazi since the party was disbanded in 1945. Well, I don't know exactly, but like, this is the old quote, is that if people were more serious with like the bullshit whenever it started, it never would have gotten off the ground. You have to be a bit more serious. Like, the ban hammer has to come out faster. And this is what I mean. It's like, oh, these people are trolling and it's like just a joke. No, they're being racist and they're doing it in this sort of like ambiguous way. And so it's like, you have to come out with a bit more of a strong response against the racism. And it's like, oh, it's just a joke. It's like, well, be funny but not be racist at the same time. So it's like, there's no reason to be this sort of like paralyzed by an analysis. Intention is in the eyes of the accuser? Yeah, but like, the racist bullshit is still racist bullshit. And the thing they're saying is always the problem, because the thing they're saying is what's on the internet, but that they said it makes them the problem also. Well, where's the line? Well, don't be racist is this the thing. If you can be Ken M and make like lighthearted stuff, why not punch everyone? What do you mean? We don't punch everyone? Cinesemiotics? But like, this is the thing. Yet how we respond to racist, misogynistic, or xenophobic trolling utterances is of great importance, and then we have to research it more. It's not that hard. You just ban the motherfuckers. Like, off the site. If you're going to be racist, you have to get off the site. You can't do that here. And then they're saying, oh, my free speech. It's like, no. Say something. You can say whatever you're going to say in a not racist way. Why not punch people for other speech we find terrible? Well, we do punch people for speech we find terrible. Is it always racist bullshit? No. But we do draw the line in certain spots. Like, we don't like racism. The misogyny has to go. And the xenophobic bullshit is not helpful too. Like, these aren't like that hard, at least nowadays. So, I mean, I'm not going to go find someone like, you like, oh, you said something on the internet, I have to go punch you. No, that's not happening. And so, like, but the author continues. What exactly the most effective response is, however, is not something I can develop alone. What is needed for this would be a collaboration between psychologists, linguistics, sociologists, and philosophers. For although there are clear moral issues relating to the acts of trolling that philosophers are well placed to consider, there is a need for us to collaborate to understand some of the ramifications. So my inclination on it is that the most morally acceptable response is going to coincide with the most practically effective response. And for this, we would benefit from the insight of everyone else. Data linguistics, psychology, sociolinguists, and sociologists. Yes, MLK was very much against violence. Do you actually think that, but the old argument is, do you think MLK would have actually been successful if Malcolm X wasn't blowing shit up, if right behind him? And he got shot as soon as he started talking about, like, changing the economic situation in America. Shane says, as a serious point of order, I think that everyone should be punctured in the face at once in their life, like full on decked. It would make everyone understand that they're not made of glass. Yeah. It's like everyone should work like food service, customer service. So. And like everyone would treat the people better. Well, people do need to like know what it is to like. Yeah. But this is the thing. It's like, when you're doing something that shouldn't be allowed, like the racist stuff that we already had rules for, that's not a problem. You were not supposed to say racist shit on Twitter. Like, that wasn't the problem. Like, this is not like we have to come up with a new rule or draw a new line. It's just that you can't be like, oh, it was just a joke, dude. But like, no, you can make a joke, but you have to make a better joke than that. Your shitty ass joke isn't that funny. That's really what it is. Like, and the racism isn't helping your case. It's just worse. And all you're doing is getting the racists on your side. So this is a paralysis through analysis paper. And what they did here, which is actually kind of interesting, is they tried to set up a dilemma. Like, that's what they're saying the trolls are doing. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, either they're being too serious and then they get you to act like an idiot because you're responding to their silliness, or they're saying something heinous and then you have to let it go, and then they're getting away with saying heinous things. So, yes, reticulate a Nazi in the splines. Very funny. So this is not a terrible paper. It's all right. I've been a little harsh on it, I think, because I didn't like what they were saying. It's like they were making it a little too easy to say, look, abusive and divisive and manipulative. That doesn't mean that like you're trolling someone if you're being abusive and divisive and manipulative. That may just mean you're being an asshole. Now, if you're being an asshole in a way that we know is bad, like the racist stuff that we already had rules against, it's simple. You don't give them like a lot of leeway because they claim to be joking. Just because some people think it's funny doesn't make it a good joke. People have terrible senses of humor. So it's like, oh yeah, racist jokes. Ha ha ha. Yeah, those people are dumb and stupid. It's like, yeah, do better. Just do better. And that's the problem here. If you're dismissing something as a mere joke, it's like, well, it wasn't funny to begin with, and then there's no reason to dismiss the racism that was like behind it. Yeah, that's the thing. Vipers, like, that's the problem. It could be better. It could be used in a better way. And so I think what happened is this author tried to do something clever with their little dilemma, saying, look, you're caught between rolling around in the mud, like arguing with something obviously stupid, or letting it go. But like they missed the more direct thing of just being like not putting up with the bullshit. And so in that case, then they didn't understand the utility of someone who might be using it like Ken M to be funny and to be like interesting and, you know, poke fun at people that deserve to be made fun of. And it's like, well, are we going to be trolled by Ken M and think Ken M is a bad dude? I don't think so. But Ken M is like, you know, seems like people deserve to be made fun of when they're like doing silly things. Like, you can make fun of them and it's funny. And like, oh, and the Hobbes thing, well, like, oh god, it's so bad to be made fun of. Well, yeah, well, sometimes you're acting like an idiot, and you can laugh at yourself. Like, if you can't laugh at yourself, I think that's the problem. And that's kind of what's going on here. I bet Ken M is giggling at his own jokes here, and you know, I don't think Trump is giggling at his own jokes. I think he's laughing at everyone else, even though, yeah, he's just scummy. But like, Ken M is laughing at his jokes, and then people fall for it, and everyone's laughing at them for falling for it. But like, it's not a big deal because, again, that's kind of like his love language. He's making he's trying to get everyone to like sort of laugh at our foibles. Laughing at foibles is fine. And it's like, that's, so it's like, are you trolling people? Yes. Are you laughing at our foibles? Yes. That's fine. We're silly things sometimes, and that's cool. And I think that's one of these, this paper is just not funny for that reason. It does not understand the funniness. Yeah. Okay. Do we have more to be said about this paper here? I mean, it wasn't overly long. It was a little too long. Like, obviously, I think the author knows that they did a silly thing in this title. Trolling as Speech Act, or the Art of Trolling, with a description of all the utensils, instruments, tackling, and materials requisite thereto, with rules and directions how to use them. So it's like, are you going to criticize the author for overdoing the title because it's obviously silly, or just let it go and then you give them the allowance to have such a silly title? So, we troll because we're a droll. Yes. Oh man, what's wrong with my computer? So slow. Brain cells can outlive the body. Ken M. Cells can't be destroyed, they just get recycled. The cells we're made of were once the cells of dinosaurs, and before that they were the cells of a star, etc. See, Ken M knows what he's doing. That's a stupid statement from any worldview. It isn't stupid, although the cells although it isn't the cells per se, but rather the molecules that make up the cells. We're all part of everything. I think it's kind of beautiful. Ken M. The very cells in our brains were once the cells of planets, and it makes us all related. That isn't stupid, although it isn't the cells per se, says Ophelia. That's my point. It isn't cells, and Ken just continues his ignorance. Ken says, there are actually more cells in our brains than there are brains in our entire body. You see, that's kind of like, you know, like the foibles that people have. That's funny. And that's the problem. But yeah, like the people that don't understand that people can be made fun of for good reason. Like, we can laugh at ourselves. That's fine.